So in this video, we're going to cover the lunge. Static split squat, stationary lunge, reverse lunge, and forward lunge all together. And this is basically the routine that I go through if I was one-on-one training, the steps that I would take people through to teach them. And obviously we're in a group format, but you can always, before or after class, take people and take them through this progression if you find that they're not understanding fully how to move their body for the reverse lunge or forward lunge. So basically, I get them into a split squat stance to start, and so I'll get them to find kind of what's comfortable, and my ideal position for them is when they get down to the bottom of that split squat that both their knees are at 90 degrees, okay? So I may move the foot forward or backwards for them to be able to find that proper position of the feet. Once they do that, my big cues are, number one, hips forward, so my hips are square, facing straight forward, squeezing the glute on the back leg. And then I want them, because you know that people have a tendency to shift forward as they go into that lunge. So I cue people to focus solely on the back knee. And I want them to focus on just dropping that back knee straight down to the floor and then coming back up. And I find for a big majority of people that just having them focus on the back knee, dropping straight down, minimizes that shift forward. Because if they're focused on the knee dropping straight down, it's really hard to be able to lean forward, okay? So once they do that, and if I still find that they're getting that forward shift, then I'll come and I'll put my hand in the line of their toes, and I'll say, don't let your knee touch my hand. And then they try and make sure that their body's back far enough that their knee does not touch my hand. And I find that that works better than just holding my hand there saying like knee back or knee in line with the toes, because people almost try to touch your hand as opposed to saying, don't let your knee touch my hand, and then they really focus on making sure the hips are back. And then that ends up being the back knee dropping straight down. So that's one of my biggest things in terms of just teaching the stationary lunge. I'll have them beside a wall or a chair or something if they need for balance. And of course the usual, knees always behind the toe, weight in the front foot is driving through the heel. I also try to cue them as well on having their weight split 50-50 between both legs. So their back leg is driving up just as much as their front leg is. And then that way they end up using that glute on that back leg. That helps keep things square. And they don't end up leaning forward and doing all the work on the front leg. All right, so that's just the stationary lunge split squat. And the other thing that I cue though on that is width of their stance. So one of the most common things, and this will bleed into the reverse lunge and forward lunge, is valgus knee. But I find a big part of that is because of how people step in their lunge. So a lot of people will go and they're going to be really narrow in their stance. And automatically when I drop down, I mean, it's hard to see with my black pants, but my knee is dropping in valgus automatically just by having a narrow stance. So anybody, especially females when their hips are wider, if they step inside their hip width, then it's going to cause that knee to drop in at least to some extent. So number one step is I get them to have a hip width apart with their feet. And the way that I cue that is, I mean, this will carry over more towards a reverse and forward lunge, but I get them to start feet hip width apart, and then imagine that their feet are attached to train tracks, so that when they step those feet back or forward, their feet can't leave the track, right? Their feet has to stay on the same track and keep a little bit of width there, and then therefore, I'm in line with my hips, I drop straight down, and I'm automatically in line with my knee, as opposed to when I go narrow and that knee drops. And of course, when you're a little bit wider in your stance, then you're more stable there as well, okay? So that's the stationary split squat. I translate that. Once they're comfortable with that, then I put them into a reverse lunge. And really all I focus on for them is the train tracks, keeping the width, and then getting them to step, and again, back knee dropping straight down, letting that weight be in the heel on that front leg, and then driving through that front foot to come forward. And just watching that they don't end up dropping and this knee coming forward like that, but I get them to shift their hips back, and then we're focusing on the back knee, drive, and come forward. And I'll break that apart, and I'll go step, pause, stationary split squat, down, up, and then come forward. And then once they get comfortable with that, then I'll move that into a moving lunge forward, okay? Last step is obviously going into the forward lunge, and because people are stepping forward, their momentum typically always takes them, and they will keep going forward with that knee. So again, that's why I'll break it down. I'll take a forward step in the train tracks, pause, stop, focus on the back knee straight down, come up, and then power through the heel on that front foot to come back. So what I see a lot of people do is they come up and then they point their toe to come back. What I cue people on so we get more glute engagement is to drive through the heel and then their toe comes off the ground first so the feet come back together. And that's really, those are going to be the main points with the lunges, at least the linear lunges forward and back. And that is it for the lunges. Let me know if you have any questions.